theft rehab, not drug rehab. If they changed the system to where the drug rehabs were called theft rehab, it would actually fit uh, what reality, you know. So it would. Right now, we don't do things according to reality. We lie about who's racist. We lie about who's racist all the time. I say we in general, and not me. I'm one of the victims of that. Of course, I haven't had people call me racist, except if they think I support Trump, then I'm a racist. Trump, the guy who gave $200 billion to black colleges and black business. I guess that means he's racist against white people. So, lying, thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor, is stealing, and that's theft. And so lying and calling him a racist is theft, you know. So, you know, what's big in this country, you know, most of the, like faking police, faking about the police being abusive and all that. What that does is that's usually a thief organization doing that. Okay, it's always every time you see it in the news, it's some crook, it's a killer, and they're whining, jumped the police, and he fought the police, almost all of them, right? Except for, you could say, "How dare you?" And they'll bring up the one where some kid pulled a fake gun, a toy gun on the police, and act like the police are terrible people because they reacted to that. Well, you know, sometimes, you know, you can't trick the police and act like you're shooting them with a toy gun because they don't know. How are they supposed to know when you played a trick? You're joking and played a trick or whatever. They might not have been joking. It was a child, that situation happened and they shot back. And but most cases are criminals. I mean, the parents taught that child to do that. Whoever the guardian is taught the child to do those things, or didn't teach him against doing stuff like that. But and also when you have all these people out attacking police, their guardians taught them that's okay, right? They probably promoted that. They promote when you see people looting and stealing, you know, that comes from, it's tied into drug cartels' life. And so a lot of parents taught their people to be part of the drug cartel. A lot of single mothers probably is the case. It's probably single mothers a lot of the time, but it's also some fathers who are cartel people, gang people. They're raising their children to be gangsters. They're raising them to be bullies. They're raising them to fight and not be a diplomat. They're raising them to tell people, don't talk, and bully people and threaten to kill people if they just talk politics or anything else. And they're raising people to, if you support a Republican candidate, to bring harm to them if they find out, and if they talk about it and they're not silenced. And the Democrats have created that because they're against speech. So that, you know, so the people doing that, you know, sometimes they do it based on ethnicity and all that, but are they really thinking ethnicity, or are they thinking they love communism? They want communism, and maybe they're thinking they're the ones, they have a certain person that can become their leader. I don't know what their end goal is, because they're just fighting and killing and not talking and stuff. Nobody's allowed to talk. Nobody's allowed to have any rights. Nobody has rights to their property. It's theft, you know, in poor neighborhoods, poor areas in the country, homeless shelters. Nobody has rights to property. They have people scouting out to find if people have money all the time, and they're going to stalk them down for the money. They have people do that. They have scouts that do that regularly. And guess what? They say nobody's allowed to talk. And but that's cartel connected stuff. That's so the truth about drug rehab, and also if somebody does accept the illegal drug from the streets and all, they're free game. They're free game. They're the main people like to rob. And so it's a complete false narrative when people are always saying, I'm rehabbing from drugs, I'm in drug rehab. Well, that takes what, 3 days? And it takes a little more time to get people's energy back, or to not want to run back to it, I guess. But the truth is their recovery is long from being broke, from being robbed. You don't just go broke buying a few beers, right? Just think in reality. You don't go broke from buying a cup of coffee. You don't go broke from eating some chocolate. Those are drugs. Beer is a drug. Coffee is a drug. It's a medicine, technically. A drug is a medicine. There's a form of medicine. So God created medicine. So we got everybody hating on God's medicines and declaring that anybody that accepts a medicine cannot, or uses a medicine, cannot exercise any responsibility. It's impossible to exercise responsibility if you take a medicine. Well, unless it's legal. And then even then, they deem certain ones what do you call it? Unavoidable. I can't think of the word. I should have ate breakfast. But they deem some of them irresistible is the word I wanted. Irresistible. Once you try it, you can't resist it. That's not true. They all have side effects. If you have a mind that wants to please God, you still might rationalize using stuff like that. So we got a heretic church today. Heresy. All these people lying, and I'm going to say lying or delusional, and saying, I'm not going to say in all cases, because if somebody grew up around drugs and did them all the time, and they found Christ, and they got saved from that addiction or that lifestyle that they had been in for a long time, then he may have done a miracle. But for the most part, it's my choice to turn down the chocolate. It's my choice to turn down sugar foods. It's my choice to, sometimes you can't, if the funds aren't there, but it's my choice to have V8 juice. It's my choice to have grape juice. It's my choice to have all these things. And to turn down sugary foods, right? And to even learn to minimize sugar, healthy alternative sugars, because in the end, they're still a sugar. They have vitamins, but they're still a sugar. So, which on the side note, I have a plan to train myself to like flavored foods instead of sugared flavored foods. In other words, I'm going to try to get myself to like ginger tea or something without sugar, without honey even. See if I can like that by maybe adding a dash of cinnamon, some cloves, and basil or something, or rosemary or something else. So instead of sugar. So that's new for me. I like sugar. I like natural sugar. And in other words, so I use tricks. Some people, they don't believe in that. It works though. So I believe in discipline at times, discipline to decide not to do it and find ways to keep myself from doing it, because food is a ever never ending on earth. That is never ending temptation in a way. It's not a temptation technically, but it's a necessity that's easy to create a bad appetite for, and especially today because we have processed foods. So those things, they're expensive. You can spend all your money on food, by the way, but usually a medicine lasts a while, and if you do too much of it, you'll overdose and die. So it's a sham when people say they spend all their money on drugs. That's a scam. How do you spend all your money on drugs? You would and use the drugs. Somebody else is sharing with you or something and taking your money and cheating you out of half the stuff or more than half. And that's what happens in the most of the drug cartels out there, that most of the gangs out there, they steal people's stuff. They give them fake stuff that ends up stealing money. Then they tease them along, and then they act like they owe them. Even after they stole all their money, they act like they owe them, and then they tell their posse will take their word for it. Their life's in danger. So they end up giving money to people. They're paying you not to kill them. The addict pays dealers not to kill them because they ran out of money to keep giving them. Stuff like that. That happens all the time. So I don't understand these fake addiction places where people go in and say, I'm in addiction recovery. You're in theft recovery. You are in theft recovery. And it takes a long time to recover. Your name may never be fully recovered for, well, the longest time, I guess. But, at least it's not, everybody doesn't know you. So you can start fresh somewhere and stay away from people that know you and can't let it go. So you're going to always be bashed and, uh, shamed and things like that, or oppressed and picked on or whatever. Or how come you don't, for what you don't have. And they'll call you an addict for not having stuff like that. He's an addict. That's why he doesn't have anything. No, you had some kind of hate crime, or so a lot of times it is ethnicity. Usually it's a hate crime. I won't say usually, because do white and black people uh, party together? It's usually mostly black party with black and white with white. But if you're a white guy in a black neighborhood, they have more, it's racism. They have more racism and feel like they have a right to take, especially from an addict, because the addict, they know, they're smart enough to know that an addict has no defense if they're guilty of using a substance. So they have, and you're the ugly, if you're a white guy in a black neighborhood, you're the ugly duckling. So, frankly, because racism, the truth is there's tons of racism in those circles of black culture. And so we never talk about that. So that's used as a mask for cartels. That helps in that culture. That helps a lot of cartels to do their work, to lie about racism and to keep them segregated, so they can also keep police out of their neighborhoods and to protect the thieves. So you think about it, and that's big in America. That's where most of our cartel stuff travels, through the falsifying of racism. And they do. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist in the white culture, but even the extreme racists that I've run into in my life, which I haven't run into until the last few years, to be honest, and the ones with the real tattoos, Nazi tattoos and all that, I can tell you I've run into them in the streets and stuff, and they get along with, they can't stand black folks that steal, but they get along with the ones that don't. They actually get along, but in general, when they get angry and talk about stealing, they will use racial slurs, but they're talking about the ones that steal. So, and I'm like, I can't be around you. I can't hear that stuff. I'm like, I've run into people in the street, white guy or two, older white man. Now, I won't say that's typical of them being old, but it was a homeless type and an alcoholic. Usually that's an alcoholic or something that does these things. But that was screaming to the top of his lung racial slurs. I'm like, what are you trying to do? Get me killed? I don't really know you or anything. Shut up, man. Shut up. And he's screaming, saying, if they can say it, I can say it. I don't care. They can't say it, and I can't say it. That's why he's saying it, though. He wasn't saying it. He's saying that's baloney. It's a trap, and it's not fair. And anyway, I stayed away from him. But he was somebody I had met new. So that happened. I'm just giving you the realism out there. That's what's out there when you go out. So when people say that, I say that they call it racist. Michelle Obama will call it racist for anybody, a white person, to be cautious around black people, wondering if they might steal and all that. And I'm thinking, she doesn't know a lot of black people, because the ones I know are proud to threaten to kill you, and they're proud of killers, thinking one to prove they will, and they keep their word on it and stuff. And that's in the poor gang areas. It's not every one of them, but it's there's certain ones in the shelters stuff that are trying to make sure they run the shelters, and so that's their real. They know where to go to protect their territory. So they go to the help venues and make sure that nobody's coming through there who's not going to comply with them. And then some of them are just being greedy and taking from whoever they want, or they're very racist in those sets. That probably in the shelters, the ones that end up in shelters and stuff are the most racist, even more than the gangs and hoods and stuff. So it's, but it varies. I mean, you got one racist group here and one that's, well, they're not that racist. They do see it. Some of them see a human being and protect you from that. So, but the point is though, it's theft rehab. People steal cars, but it's a lot of times it's hate crimes. Like if it's, white people partying with black people or whatever, it's hard not to mix, uh, even if they're racist, white people and black people still use stuff together. If there's not as many Asian people because that's a low population here. There's not, but they're out there some. They got the Hispanics, and I don't know as much about Hispanics. They're not out in the open, but the fact is, a lot of white and black people both do their stuff out in the open, right? Whereas technically, it seems Hispanics are a little more overall. Not all of them. I do know a few I've seen, but generally they're more sophisticated, and some of them, I guess, a lot of them they're against that lifestyle. So that's what's funny about it. We talk about Mexican drug cartel, but there's a lot more Hispanics that against that lifestyle and will say they'll tell their own people if you're an addict, don't be doing it out here in the open, that kind of thing. Whereas the black gangs will promote doing it in the open. Like if somebody wants a hotel or something like that, they don't want them to get a hotel. Partly, I guess, because they want that hotel money, or because they want to expose people, put people out front. Apparently, they want to put people, make them paranoid and put them at risk and stuff. So they want them doing stuff outside. That's what I've seen, and they want people doing stuff outside in the open to mark their territory. I don't know what the purpose is. It may just be mostly because they want that hotel money, and they don't want you to be able to lock away from them and take. So there's a lot of black folks like that in the drug culture, and that exists for real. Michelle Obama doesn't seem to know it. She'll call it racist to say it does, and she's protecting those people. Those people, and same thing with the police, right? So you got looting. So just to back up what I'm saying, it's obvious. It's not hocus pocus. I'm not making stuff up here. I'm telling you what you go out and drive in your car and you can see it on the side of the road when you pass by. I mean, it's out there. They're not hiding it too much. And so that's the hidden people, the ones moving this stuff behind the scenes. They're glad to have all that noise out there to distract from the real shakers and movers of the what do you call it? The smugglers types or whatever, transporters, smugglers. Those people do it silently, and all the street. They're glad those street folks are there to protect and make them seem obsolete. But you have, so the problem I have with all this, I'm personally not against medicine, right? I'm against using it if you don't need it, okay? But I don't think it's, somebody can define who needs it more strictly than others. I do think there's some people that, if you think you can't make it through a day, you got to learn how not to. You got to tough it out sometimes and don't do it. But I don't view it as a sin, except until you're realizing I haven't talked to God in a while, even if you're using very moderately, very mildly caffeine. I even believe in staying off caffeine. I'll put it like that. So I can have a more prayerful mind. Have I succeeded at that? A lot. Well, yeah, a lot I have and a lot I haven't. But right now I'm off caffeine. I had caffeine yesterday for the first time in 3 weeks, but it was 32 milligrams, and a kombucha drink, which it has some tea in it. It's caffeine, and most people don't realize that it has caffeine. But so I had that, and I decided to do it because I was tired, and I knew I'm about to go on a fast. I thought, well, I'm about to go on a fast. I needed to get some stuff done yesterday. Woke up pretty tired, or didn't sleep much. I'll put it like that. So I did my little energy pill, which is ginseng with only 32 milligrams of caffeine. I think it's 32, and it's from green tea. So it was very little, and I didn't take any coffee to use the diuretic or anything. I did my first meal, but the night before that, where I had a dessert with sugar in it for the first time in 3 weeks or so. So, so what's my recovery from that mild little bit of drugs, caffeine, drug? I had just a little, I'm not having much recovery, a little frustration today, but I decided to go ahead and make this video. And I want to go on a fast for a little bit. And it did affect me for that, because I feel like eating. That does make my appetite go up. Caffeine does do that. So I feel like I need energy as I'm going through minor withdrawal from it, I guess. So I want food energy. I want sugar energy. But I'm just going to keep drinking water and hope I get over it. Maybe take a nap if I have time. So, or relax a little bit and get my head together some and just relax instead of eating. Don't go such a fast pace. Sometimes I eat for energy so I can get more stuff done. I eat, but in the end, you get more stuff done sometimes if you skip a meal. And you rest a little more, plus get more done, because you don't have to clean up. You don't have to clean up what you messed up by having the meal. And you go to the bathroom fewer times. So you end up getting more done. So there's a lot of stuff that makes sense about resting on the Sabbath. All right, so let's get right back to the brass tacks here, whatever that means. But it's an old saying. Back to the point, the main point. Those are all sub-points, by the way. I mean, it's because it's not addiction. That recovery from addiction might be losing weight. Actually, one of the biggest recoveries, because as soon as some people, it depends how much they used. But your recovery, so there is, I'm not going to deny there is some recovery, physical recovery, but not any worse than somebody who's been eating poorly for a while. It's not any worse than that, much worse in some ways. In most cases, it can be a little, but not much worse. And then in some cases, it's hardly any worse, different than somebody who's eaten poorly for a while and gain weight and stuff, right? It's the same kind of recovery it's like recovery from obesity. Now that does take a while. If you gained weight on the stuff, it takes a while. It does take a while to get your mind staying off caffeine, though. Your mind doesn't come all the way back if you're using caffeine. But your mind, it can take a little while for your mind to get focused and realize what's if you're trying to be wise all the time with your time and be organized, there's certain things you'll see that you didn't see a week after stopping using medications. But that also happens whether you had medications or not. If you make a decision if somebody wasn't saved and got saved and weren't on medications and didn't have an obesity problem or a gluttony problem and exercise well, but they weren't saved and they got saved in Christ, believed in Christ, then they have a desire for wisdom and want to see new stuff, they still keep seeing new stuff and wiser ways to do stuff if they keep trying to look for that, if they keep seeking that. And so, but you do have a little better vision. You have a little better spiritual vision without caffeine, without any other drug, without any other medicine. Okay? And I mean medicine when I say drug. And so that's the other part. So what we're rehabbing from, but I'm not. So I'll just say real quick on the medicine note, I do these things. It's okay to repeat this stuff because it needs, and then repeat it in a different context, and because people need to know about medicine, they need an education about it, and they need to know. The goal is that you don't want to have to use medicine. You want to live a life that says I'm healthy enough to need medicine. And for your body's sake, so you live a longer days. It doesn't matter what medicine is. Aspirin, you have to wonder, and someday, if you were lived to be 100 years old, if I'd never used aspirin in my life, would I have lived to be 101? Now, I don't suggest not using aspirin because of what we know about the heart and our diets being off. But if you've been a vegetarian, stuck to almost a vegetarian diet your whole life with a little fish, meat once a week or something, but good healthy meat and some milk, yogurt, especially if it was non-pasteurized milk in the natural state with lactase instead of lactose. It's hard to come by nowadays. But if you did that your whole life and stuck to it, you might not ever need aspirin. But if you've eaten kind of poorly at times, there's a chance that you're better off taking a little aspirin to keep your arteries from clogging and stuff like that. And so, or to at least keep it from blood clotting wrong if you already have them clogged, because you can't always reverse clogging of the arteries. So that's recovery is, uh, it can be different things from the drug, but what's really hard to recover from is getting your ID stolen, getting your bank cards stolen, getting your bank account drank, getting your car stolen, getting your clothes stolen, getting your social security card stolen, getting your if you're on benefits, getting your benefit card stolen, getting your insurance card stolen if you're not on government benefits, getting your uh, recovering and chasing down all those items. Um, you can't get money out of the bank if you had money in the bank without your ID, stuff like that. And it takes a while to go recover your ID because you don't have the money to pay for an ID. Some cities will help people who have been robbed like that get their ID if they have an address. You have to go through a shelter system of some sort to have an address. Then you're stuck. If they made you lose your apartment or something like that because of the way the rules are, then you're stuck having to go through a shelter system or stay outside. Then you're out there looking for restrooms. I've heard somebody making fun of homeless people that think they just think the street's a place to use the restroom. But the fact is, now some of them don't feel like walking to a restroom, and there's not enough restrooms, public restrooms, for all of them, frankly. But in a lot of cities, especially, it's hard to find a restroom. There's nowhere to use a restroom, but you can't hold it. At some point, you can't hold it anymore. I mean, and so that's what happens with the homeless out there. And so, but that's hard. That's difficult. It makes them feel they can't. Okay, some people don't ever take their shoes off because they want to be ready to run if they need to run from somebody, or that they have to worry about stuff. They can't. Some of them hardly get any sleep. Some of them do get sleep and take a chance. But some of them move around because they have some bullies in town. They have to stay on the move. So you have those are recovery. That's theft recovery, and that's what the main problem with the cartels and drugs today is. Not the drugs, it's minus the poison. So everybody thinks it's a drug problem, an alcohol problem, and obviously those exist. That exists, right? So those problems do exist, but for the most part, it's a theft problem. It's sometimes a housing problem because people lose housing when they should have been. If they were really an issue, and a lot of times it's still not their issue when they're in housing, it's an illegal groups dealing issue that trashed the house or brought ruckus or brings violence and guns to the table, and we don't talk against that stuff. The Democrats especially don't talk against it, and they act like somebody who's doing self-defense or teaches self-defense like Trump. They act like he's violent and stuff. And you got Biden fighting Trump behind the shed and all this stuff, and that it doesn't matter when he did that. But you're not calling out you're not calling out. So the police example, you're not calling. They act like people should hate the police. All these people, they will hurt you a lot of times if they think you support police. Well, if you don't support police, I mean, how can somebody? A lot of the people that they'll go along with that, but they support police when it's time for them to call an ambulance to go to the emergency room. Even some of them that they bully everybody not into supporting police. That's not. So what they really want though is they don't want people supporting police who go after thieves. They don't want people supporting police who go after real violence and bullying and enslavement. So, and extortion and drug dealing supposedly, but the drug dealing, a lot of them do it in and out of jail and everything nowadays. So I guess, and a lot of times they don't bust drugs and stuff. But if they do, it is probably overblown sometimes, maybe not. Because if you factor in, if you know that the dealers and all that are killing people and hurting people, that's what they should be in for. If they go in, and they should pay people back, and they should. I just saw in the news this morning about, and I forget where it was. I think it's Los Angeles, near Los Angeles, Riverside, California, maybe. And those two guys, one was white and one was, but they're from Europe, probably illegal immigrants from Europe. And they're putting skimming machines in ATMs and stealing. They stole about $10,000 as of recently, skimming people's information, ID theft. It skims the PIN number and the card number, and they go create another card with it somehow, and empty people's bank accounts, or it may be empty little by little from each, so they don't notice as much. Maybe they did that, but they came up with around $10,000. And the next day they're out on bail. But guess what? They should have had to pay back. When you know you got it on camera and you know they're guilty, it's innocent until proven guilty. How did they bail them right back out? So there's something not right about that, right? So because you know they owe these people, they got to pay them, and where are they going to go disappear now, or be doing it to more people? Go somewhere else and do it outside of the state. Do it in another state. I mean, I understand that's a tough call, because you don't want, in case they were not guilty. Usually people are guilty when you catch them. When you catch them, you got them on camera. You know they're guilty, right? So there should be cases like that where you know that you know that you know, and you're not just guessing, or you don't have, or you're pretty sure there's a lot of evidence to show, but you don't have evidence that can be totally proven. And then you let them off, but you do have enough evidence. That happens too. But that's a hard call. But you don't want a killer, somebody who just killed people or is a serial killer, to be bailed out and roaming around when you don't have evidence. So I think there's got to be something done about that. And there's a lot that needs to be done in the prison system. But the bottom line here on the point is the thief should be paying back who they robbed while they're in jail. And also, it's really a better, because on the other hand, sometimes you put them in jail and they're in there too long. When do they get out? I mean, look what they did. Well, make them pay back the thief before they get out. So when they steal cars, they need to pay back the insurance companies if somebody had full coverage, and they need to pay back who they robbed it from, or pay if they can't find the people, the car, and all that kind of stuff, but they found the thief. They don't know who the owner was somehow and all that. Then have them pay the system, or pay Ford Motor Company if it was a Ford car. I don't know. Pay somebody back what you stole, right? And then you're exonerated. Then you can get out, unless you had an armed robbery. Then they have to assess how dangerous you are, and for the public safety of the public, do we leave them in? So they should let people work behind bars. But it's recovery. It's theft recovery is needed way more than, for many other reasons, than addiction recovery, because people go back, they relapse because they see no way out. There's no way out of their hole from being robbed. They're just wore out. They don't see, with everybody hating on them and all this stuff, that then they're isolated now, being labeled an addict. And so they go through a lot, trying to recover property, and they're depressed. They get kicked down for it. They've lost opportunities. They've lost friends. People hate them. And so, and I'm not going to say they're all innocent victims like that, because some of the people who use drugs, they're the ones that are doing the stealing, right? But it's not true that addiction makes a person steal. But it is true, even for somebody who doesn't steal, it's possible it can be forced to steal or be killed, or in those circles, or feel they're going to be killed or threatened. So that's why some people are smart enough just to get away. They got all the money. They give them all their money, and then they're happy to let them go at that point. But one reason they take everybody's money is they want to make them so desperate that they feel a temptation to steal, and actually they may make a slave out of them and say, get in the streets and panhandle, go panhandle, and then they'll go rob whatever they panhandled. They'll have, because they have them posted nearby, go panhandle over here. And so they have them panhandle, and then they threaten them, and they're going to beat them sometimes. That goes on, and for their money. So some of these guys that carry knives, and they're pretty rough, and because they've learned how to be rough like that, because people do steal from panhandlers too and stuff, but not, If you're in the territory where they're originally robbed and they're with addiction, I mean, in the drug circles, uh, those are the ones that get beat up. Now, I'm not going to say all the panhandlers that go off away from all that area and get away from the people that robbed them and they panhandle somewhere else. I'm not saying they get robbed, but then they may have some buddies that work with them that rob them. So it varies, but they're definitely have to worry about getting robbed when they get money from panhandling. So, and most cases, I would say, and from what I've seen, and so theft rehab is the issue. Now they don't see any hope for that, and that's a trigger for relapse because you don't see yourself recovering. You don't feel like buying this again because you wanted to buy something else, and because everybody kind of pictures and sees stuff coming together as they buy one thing. Okay, I bought the shoes. Now I'm going to buy a watch. Now I'm going to buy some clothes. Now I'm saving money for housing or whatever. But they can't do that next step because they got to buy shoes again. They got to buy a watch again. They got to buy a backpack again. They got to buy luggage again. They got to buy bus tickets again. They got to buy an ID again. It's not free a lot of times. So it's usually not free unless you get special help. They got to buy bus passes to get to the ID. But how do they do it? They can't get money out of the bank if they don't have an ID. So how do they get to work with no clothes? I mean, no boots. How do they do all that stuff? Okay, so theft rehab. Time is up where this won't download. Theft rehab is realistic. Drug rehab, I'm not saying it's unrealistic. We don't have good drug rehabs. I'll reiterate that from another video. That, rehabs have caffeine and cigarettes. And a real rehab to teach you how to get off drugs would ban. You'd go to a rehab that has no coffee, no chocolate, no tea, and is on a strict diet with no sugar or low sugar or natural sugars, but even lowering your sugar intake. You could get picky. You can have fasting. That's a real rehab, right? But now you can label a rehab as we're just trying to get them off the illegal drugs to keep them safe. And you can have a rehab that's legitimate, that allows coffee and cigarettes and is just trying to help people get away from the violent criminal. That's where the word criminal fits. The people who steal from other people, organized steal from other people and use drugs as a lure. And so there's a trick. It's a lie to call all drugs bad. They should have safe forms to disempower those kind of groups. They should have the safe forms, the plant forms, the natural plant forms God created in a licensed dealing situation with licensed dealers, just the plants. And then the concentrated forms should be, and scientists should be allowed to make safe forms of those and mostly put in doctors' hands. Probably put them all in doctors' hands, but we wouldn't trust the doctors to prescribe them today. And psychiatrists should just prescribe them. So, but the reason you might not do it that way is because they just won't. But that's how you disempower the cartels. Because really, the bigger issue, so people think it's the drugs that are bad. Yeah, it's bad because they make them strong, but you can make them weak in a medicinal. Weak would be a medicinal. What do you call it? Anyway, a medicinal form. But the medicinal form would be much weaker in most cases, right? Unless you're coming out of surgery or whatever. So, or broke a bone or whatever. So you have, and they're not that bad in that way. So then the responsibility is on the addict at that point, and even more so. And then you can start always blaming the addict if they did something wrong. I'm not into that either. I'm like, get back up, and it's a new day, man. That's what Jesus teaches us with every day. So why is it not a new day for them? And why is it a new day for you, but not for addicts? Every day is a new day for everybody, right? I mean, come on. Now, unless you're killing people, unless you're regularly robbing from people, our enforcement needs to be, our conversation needs to talk against that stuff more, and they won't do it if we just talk against it more. And bring some reverence to the Ten Commandments. Reverence for people. Not just reverence, but respect. Because some people, from a heart standpoint, you want to have reverence and love for your neighbor and for God. But some people aren't going to have that. But if you're talking about it, stuff, it's for governing, and we're going to expect people are going to have respect and at least a conscience. They know that that's wrong, because people don't know that they know that doing a medicine is wrong, because sometimes medicines help. Sometimes, and then God's not against using a medicine to help yourself. But he's against you worshiping it. He's against you using it and abusing it, basically. But should that be a crime, or should it be? That's up to the individual. So I'm saying you legalize stuff right, and you quit suing doctors. You have the safe form. You quit suing doctors. It's up to you to use properly and not to hurt yourself. That's the responsibility of the consumer, the patient, and everybody else. And there's very few cases where that, where it's different. But you might sue the scientist if you think the medicine, something happened with the medicine. But generally, why are we looking to sue? What's the point? You should be responsible yourself. But we need to regulate and have scientists licensed to make the safe forms. And they're still going to throw tricks at it and all this stuff. But it'd be a way, 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 way better system than we have now. 70,000 people dying per year with poison fentanyl, with unlicensed dealers being rampant. And they're not just regular dealers either. These are people who are killers. They are people who are thieves. And if they're not, they have all their people that work for them are killers and thieves. So I forgot a point. So what they've even done, what they're really doing when they hate on police, is they're trying to chase out the good police and put bad police in that allow thieves to do what they want, that even help the thieves. And so really all these people that are hating the police, they're doing it in support of thieves and gangs and people. That's who's hating the police. And then people are falling for the story. And it's the gangs that's tearing up their own neighborhoods, but they believe police do that and they're racist and all this stuff. And now there's some, I'm sure there's some out there like that, but guess what? Guess who's putting those types in there? The same people who are complaining against good police. And they're acting like the good police are bad police. They're putting bad police in who are helping those thieves bully your neighborhoods, bully any neighborhood that they can, right? So, and it's just growing hate groups. They're supporting hate groups. Real hate groups, not fake hate groups like the media talks about, but real hate groups, meaning how come the media helps always call people Islamophobe, but they've never defended against Christianophobia, Christophobia. They've never defended against that. That's a trick. And so there's all kinds of bully groups associated with that in the gangs and stuff. And it's not just the cartel is a avenue that kind of hosts all kinds of hate groups. So even the white supremacists, the real white supremacists, the active ones are small gangs too that get mixed in with the drug cartels. See what I mean? It's not, and then the people that they hate on and call racist, like Trump and all them, they're the ones that put that stuff to it and stop. And they're lying and saying white supremacy comes from Republican. Every bad church and every hypocrite church that ever had something to do with racism came from the Democrat side. It's a fake church, even just like it is now. Like they do the gay marriage, the same-sex marriage. And I'm not against gay people getting married to the opposite sex. I believe that's the thing. They even promote that if you're gay, if a man's ever been with a man or a woman's been with a woman ever, they can't be around a woman or a man. They can't be around the opposite sex. They cannot get married. That's not true. A gay man cannot, somebody with those tendencies, God knows people have those tendencies. He gave us hormones, and every hormone doesn't work the same. But it's not a natural, you have to admit it's not a natural attraction and to go with the same sex. Because there's no mystery, for one, hardly a mystery to it. So, and testosterone is naturally attracted to estrogen, and vice versa. Women have softer skin. Women have prettier texture to their skin. Face is softness and all that kind of stuff. And a man is tougher, and that naturally feels good to a man. And a woman likes a man appreciating that. romantic in the romantic realm. All right, so that exists, and people don't even know that, right? They're not today because it's based on what money. They like bullies, and bullies are made to be sexy, stuff like that. A lot of times, but then they complain about somebody being a bully when they were looking for a bully because they thought that's, you know, anyway. But because they want that tough guy, that varies. Everybody doesn't fall for that, right? But there's all kinds of tricks out there. But but my point is, somebody that believes in Christ and has gay tendencies, what's wrong with them having their own children and having their own wife? A man that have to, if they know that that's right, then but they have an attraction the other way. If both people understand it and they're trying to live well according to please God, and they want children, they want their own children. They want their children to have their real mother and father. So it's okay for gay people to marry normal, and most people don't realize that happens. Everybody has different stories and different levels of their mentality goes through changes, and based on what they think is valuable. They think it's valuable to have a family. If somebody in that case, they think it's valuable to teach kids and to leave a piece of themselves behind when they leave the earth. They passed their DNA on. They got somebody that looks like them somewhat, reminds them of them, and then they can even teach about God and hope they promote more peace. People have dreams and visions when they believe in God. And so the gay person in that's been saved and has the vision for it can get married, or they can say, I like being single. I don't like all that. I like to give more time to God. You have more time to God if you stay single. You can't have more time to God. Obviously, different jobs and poverty today can also take away from your time. And actually, sometimes it's cheaper to have a relationship for two people to split the rent somewhere. It's more feasible to have a partner, and a lot of people act like it's the opposite. So I don't understand why they have all these challenges for men to have all this money for a woman, because really, a man and a woman today and anytime, we're both helping each other, and it makes things cheaper unless you have a glutton or something, right? Sometimes the gluttony is not even that expensive depending on what you eat. I mean, if you go, what they used to have, they had the 99-cent Big Macs and stuff. I mean, you could be a glutton, and it's not that expensive, but those do add up too. It's not as cheap as buying a $2 bag of beans that makes a whole pot full of food that can last 3 days. Now that's saving money, and it's healthy. But so you got rehab, theft rehab is the big deal. And if people start focusing on theft rehab, the point is, if you actually call it what it is, it's mostly theft rehab. People are in their position, if you have real drug rehab is somebody who had a stroke, and you got a whole rehab of people that had a stroke on a drug. They're rehabbing from the results of a dirty drug, which was also probably because of theft. The theft of giving somebody a fake drug or giving somebody a poison drug. And so, but that's rehab from an injury from drugs, right? So, but real rehab, when you have theft rehab, I think we need to start having theft rehab, more theft rehabs, and then they'll understand why police have a special job, right? And have good police will protect theft. Good police want you protected from theft. Good police. Now, that's good, smart psychological police, understand psychiatry and all that stuff. We'll have more of those. They may promote legalizing the proper way, having licensed dealers so they can protect people's property, protect them from harm. So you want good police who want to protect your physical well-being, your rights to property, your rights to your money, and they deter people from theft. And I'm going to go before this cuts off. But maybe I'll have to do part 2. Somehow I didn't get to that point. I wanted to reiterate that point and tell you some more about that point right there. But you want good police, you want the police that go after the thieves and things when they know who it is, or when somebody that's starting fights. You want them to, and then when that happens and we speak against it, we have to speak more against it, like I'm doing now. And have signs up, stop the violence and all that kind of stuff. We need a lot more of that. And then you don't have the police don't have to be involved as much. Once the police let you know that's what they're looking for the most, and if because we help them form the proper prioritizing, which is loving our neighbors, protecting our neighbors and their property, and then understanding what's the real deal with addiction and being and encouraging people to follow nutrition and exercise, peace of mind, sober minds. Once we do those kind of things and put it in order, um, you don't have to involve the police much. It detours it. There's more people acting respectful, and the police are just there ready and reminding people to be safe, and it's way better, right? And the truth is that Democrats, when that happens and things get way better, they're going to find one incident and act like it's all over the place. Right now, it is all over the place, but they want to hide it. They won't tell why it's happening. What they want because they want their form of government to take over and put all these military police in who protect only the government. They don't protect you from theft and everybody else from theft. They'll actually start chopping people's hands off for stealing and stuff. That's the Democrats. So they're lying. They want bad police that protect the bad government that they want to put in place. And so they don't want you to have private property. As a matter of fact, they're going to steal everybody's private property rights. There won't be anybody with a private property right. They're in charge of your house completely. In the government they're promoting, right? And those are the people that hate police are helping them do that. And the people that hate police are thieves, usually. Thieves that, not all thieves, but thieves who, because some are desperate, but thieves who are involved in organized crime, regularly stealing from people and hurting people. And therefore communism. A lot of them are straight up communists. A lot of them are straight up, they just hate Christianity. Democrats hate Christianity because it calls them out the way I'm calling them out. I'm calling them out, but I'm protecting people. So everybody can't hate me for calling out this stuff. It is hard. It's a hard thing to confront it. I'm not the type that wants to confront this and go be what they call Karen. There's good Karens and bad Karens, but you need some more good Karens, and you need people to stop hating Karen. Love your neighbors, love your enemies, and quit trying. But most of the people that hate on Karen, that's thieves hating on Karen, right? They want to be a thief. So they want to be disrespectful to people. And so, but some Karens overdo it. The types that some of them do it tactfully, or some of them are dumb. I've seen some dumb ones where they're knocking on somebody's car, trying to go at them like that. And you don't do that. You just do it stuff tactfully. I don't know how you do it. That's my point. I want the society to be able to avoid having to do stuff like that. And for people to respect people's property and not even attract a Karen type. And by teaching this way, that's how people learn it. And they build a conscience and they realize, hey, that helps me actually. Even the thieves, it helps. Helps protect their own property because thieves surround themselves with other thieves a lot of times. And they don't have any protection for their stuff. So there's a chance this doesn't download. It's gone so long. But so I do believe in teaching it from this format the most. And then when you do have to be confronted, you do it respectfully. And then the people know to react respectfully too. They know that's in their best interest because you don't want an extra charge too from starting something. Then maybe whatever, and you realize, by the way, that's when you teach properly, then the punishment's not so severe either. We learn to be able to talk against the punishment. Stop talking against the police and start talking against the legislation and judges, how long the sentencing is, and treat them humanely, if they do have to go behind bars. If I have to go behind bars or somebody does, it's America. It's not Rome, the old Roman Empire. We're supposed to teach being humane when in detainment so people can come out better, not worse. And I have to close here because of time, unfortunately. Maybe I'll do a part 2, and I may have to redo this video because it's so long it might not download. God bless and rise with 1 John 4:8. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love.